I grew up in a Catholic home, always going to the Catholic church, going to the Catholic school, and to me, God was always somebody that I believed existed, but not anybody that I ever thought I could have a relationship with. I said my prayers at bedtime, I said grace before meals, I did all the stuff that a good Catholic little girl was supposed to do, and I tried to be nice to everybody, and I thought that if I did all that stuff, then that meant that I was going to heaven. I guess I thought that God was proud of me, sort of, for being the way I was without ever talking to God about it. All of my prayers were always just one way. I never expected to hear anything back, because to me, God was somebody who was way up here, and I was down here, and there was nothing I could ever do to bridge that gap. When I was 11 years old, I went to Conestoga Bible Camp for the first time, and I'd say that's where I realized that that I was missing out on something, because all of the counselors and even some of the other campers seemed to, well, they talked about God like He was their friend, and they talked about Him like they had a relationship with Him, and that was something that was really foreign to me. It didn't make me, I'd say, want to change my life, but it just made me feel like I was missing out. And I realized that maybe what I'd always thought was Christianity wasn't true. So that was how I was going into high school. And once I was in high school, I was a real goody-goody, because that's just the way that I am. But I definitely wasn't pursuing a relationship with God in any way. I went to Conestoga Bible Camp again, but this time for youth camp. And that is where things changed for me. I guess what happened there was that there was this boy who had just came back from a missions trip. And right away when he got there, he went to his cabin and he locked himself away there for 3 days. And because if it was girls, they probably would have told somebody that the person was feeling sick, but the guys just kind of let it go. I didn't think it was too much of a big deal. So it was 3 days into it, and we got called out of an evening game into the Lakeside Chapel, and they gathered everybody there to tell us that this boy, Spencer, was extremely sick with malaria, and they had him in the hospital, and they weren't actually sure if he was going to make it. It was scary. A couple of his cousins were actually at the camp too, and they asked if a smaller group of us would want to get together and pray. And praying in front of somebody else was never something that I was comfortable with, because it wasn't something that we did in my family or at the Catholic Church. But I felt pulled to go with the group. And we went to a smaller chapel, the Playground Chapel, and we prayed, and it was for a while that we were praying, just kind of popcorn prayer. I wasn't saying a word because I wasn't used to that kind of scene. But in my head, the verse that kind of kept on playing, and one of the only verses that I really knew was, if you have faith as big as a mustard seed, you can move mountains. And I really believed that. I really believed that something big was going to happen. And I wanted to share that verse with everybody, but I was way too scared to do it. So I kept quiet and fighting inside whether I should say it or not. And then all of a sudden, one of the older counselors who was there actually said that verse right out loud to encourage the people that were praying. And it was only a few moments after that that the camp director came in and told us all that Spencer had taken a turn, and they just got a phone call from the doctors, and they thought that he was doing better than he had been doing since he came in, and that he was definitely going to make it. So I didn't know him at all. I'd never even met him because he'd gone straight to his room when he came to the camp. That I felt such a relief wash over me, more having to do with the fact that I realized God did care about our prayers, and God did care about what was going on in our lives. And just a sense of awe that even though God was so big and was so far away from me, He was paying attention to what was going on in my life and the lives of those around me. And that's not the moment where I got saved, as Christians like to call it that moment. But that was the moment where I wanted to be saved. That was the moment where I wanted things to be different. Soon after becoming a Christian, I started dating a Christian guy from the church that I was going to, his church actually. And entering into a relationship when you are a new Christian is something that is going to pose problems. And especially for somebody whose big craving is to be needed, it is something that is going to pose problems. I know that a lot of Christian girls say that when they're in a relationship they want God to be the number one thing in the person that they're in love with, in their life. And I've said that before, that I would like in his life God to be number one, and I would like to think that I actually do believe that. But I think that the problem starts to come when he actually does display actions that line up with God being number one in his life, and then all of a sudden I have a problem with being number two. It comes from my craving to be needed and to be desired and to be everything that he needs. And that's never going to be true. And I'm just starting to realize that, because no matter how wonderful he is, he's never going to be everything that I need, because only God can be that. And no matter how hard I try to be everything that he needs in life, that's not going to be true either, because God can only fulfill the needs that he has. I was talking to a friend just the other night, and she said something that really stuck with me, and something that I want to base my relationship on now as well. And that's that you're never going to be able to love the other person the way that you're supposed to, because you can only love them as much as a human would love. What you need to be doing is to have God loving you so much and being assured in that love that you are filled to the point of overflowing, so that your love is just going to pour out on that other person as a natural result of how much your relationship with God is based on love. And that's something that I'm going to be striving for now in my own relationship, and trying to fight my craving to be needed all the time. My name is Brittany Straus, and this is my story.